when we first got to our host family, I was really glad that I was not going through it alone, because when we first got into Nepal, I was immediately just shocked by how different everything was. So then I realized if I'm going to be able to make it through this trip, I'm going to have to kind of expand my boundaries, and I think that for me meant relying on others more than I usually did. So like I had to get really close to my roommates as well as my family, because living in a place like this where the culture is so different from America, it just really kind of forced me to open up in that way.
So we basically did everything with our roommates. We ate together, we slept together, we pretty much did everything together. So it was really nice to have other people to rely on throughout this entire trip, because as Eric said, it's a very different place than we're used to. So it was great to have others to be able to rely on, and they'd help if needed.
And I think as we went through the trip, there's a lot of different experiences and kind of situations that rose up that we handled as a group that I would have definitely been a lot more panicked and worried about if I was alone. Like, for example, just a couple days into our stay with the host family, our dad, who did not speak very good English, walks up to us in the afternoon and says something about a funeral and his aunt who died. And we didn't really understand what he was saying, but he was motioning us to go with him. And we just kind of went with it, because we all kind of looked at each other and thought, I don't know what's going to happen, but this might be something really cool. And it ended up being exactly that. I mean, a couple of us were wearing flip-flops. We were not prepared at all. But I think because we had each other, we were able to go through it and be prepared. And then when we got there, it was really cool. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so once we got to where this funeral ceremony was being held, we walked into this dim lit room. It was lit with candles, and there were lots of Buddhist monks who were chanting and singing and playing horns and stuff like that. And none of us had ever seen anything like that ever in our entire lives. That was something completely different than we were used to. But it was a great experience to see, and I'll probably never see anything like that ever again. So I'm really happy that we went and saw that.
And I think that place for me was the place that where kind of clicked how different Nepal is, because even in such a sacred ceremony like that, they invited us in. We're not Buddhist, we're not experienced with their culture or anything, but they still invited us in, sat us down, gave us some tea, and we were just sitting in the middle of with the monks everywhere as they went through this really sacred ceremony, and we just got to participate. We were even chatting with one of the monks. It was just a really amazing experience that we definitely would not be able to have in a place like America. And then that was not the only interesting thing that our family did for us. They had an older grandmother who was just kind of around, and she was a part of their family, but she was an older woman who was kind of taken care of and just sat there. But every time we walked in for dinner, she would be there and just smiling at us. And it was really interesting that we almost developed a kind of bond with her just by sitting there and kind of smiling with her, just sharing our meals with her. She didn't speak any English. We didn't understand a word she said because our Nepali is not very good. But we still got to make a bond with that, which I found really incredible, and I was definitely not expecting that.
I feel like throughout the trip we made very close bonds with pretty much everyone in our host family, especially the two younger boys who are in the family. Each night after we got back from working, we'd come back and kick around a soccer ball with the two younger kids, or they'd try to teach us some Nepali game that they had learned that day at their school. So it was really interesting to form a bond with those two children. So that was really special.
That was also a thing that made me think of how universal the world can be, because we're in the middle of Nepal. As I said, there's all these things that are so different and that we weren't able to handle it. But then when we got to play with the kids and talk to them, and they spoke pretty good English, we got to develop a really close bond, just as we would with, say, our own brothers at home. Because I think even though we're so different and we have all these different cultures, there's still a lot of things that keep us together and make us just who we are, and that allows us to share with each other and form really, really strong bonds really easily. especially with kids like us that we're able to share developments with, and we're so relatable to them, even though they have such different lives, really. So then, outside of the family, one day we got to go and visit the market in Solari, and got to go around there, and we were led by a girl from the hostel, the girls' hostel, who didn't really speak the best English, and she didn't communicate with us super well, but we still managed to find our way through the market, and that was something that was entirely different from anything in America. There's just tons of shops and everywhere, and people just selling random things just in the middle of the dirt, really, just on the side of a hill. And we were just kind of woven around through everything by this girl who we were kind of forced to follow blindly almost. It was really interesting what we were able to find there. Like, we got some things that we were not expecting to find in the middle of, basically in the mountains there.